What is going on, guys? Welcome to another chess opening series, and in this tutorial I'm going to start talking about the Scotch game. And in particular, in this video I'm going to be talking about the classical variation, one of the more common opening lines. But in the upcoming videos I'll talk about some other variations, some other lines, as well as some tactics, traps, techniques, so on and so forth. But for now I just want to give you guys a real quick introduction. So yeah, let's go ahead and get right into it. So this starts out just like the Italian game or the Ruy Lopez with e4, e5, white goes knight to f3, black responds knight to c6, defending their pawn. And now, unlike the Ruy Lopez or the Italian game, the Scotch game starts out with the move pawn to d4. So this is essentially one of the main reasons why I love the Scotch so much, is just because whenever you are playing against, I don't know, mid-level players, they usually aren't studied up on the Scotch as much as they are the Italian game or the Ruy Lopez. So it kind of takes them out of their game. And as someone who has studied the Scotch, it gives you that little edge, that advantage. So now Black's typical response is to capture this pawn on d4. Now, we are going to be going over whether they don't capture, whether they just try to hang on to that e5 pawn, but the most common reply, like I said, is e capturing on d4. If they try to hold on to that e5 pawn, it's not the best idea, and we're going to take a look at exactly why that is later. It's actually pretty interesting. But for now, what white is going to do is they're going to recapture this pawn with their knight. So knight captures on d4. And now, before black moves, let's just go ahead and take a little snapshot of what's happening. So right now, white does indeed, I don't want to make that red, it's a good thing. White does indeed have an extra pawn in the center, which is good. However, it did come at a cost, mainly a tempo. So one of the key principles in opening theory is you don't want to move your pieces more than once in the opening. It's just usually a waste of a tempo. And white in the Scotch game, they do end up moving their knight twice. So they did lose the tempo. However, they do have the advantage of center control. So it's a trade-off, something that we have to be aware of. Now, black's response in this variation is to bring their bishop out to c5. Now, of course, not only does this develop the bishop, but it also attacks this knight in the center. Very good opening move. And what white is going to want to do is, of course, they don't really want to just retreat their knight, even if it is attacking this bishop, because we already moved it twice, and it's just not a good idea to move this knight around and around, let it be chased all over, especially when we have so many other pieces left to be developed. So the most standard reply is to take this bishop and not only develop it, but protect this knight on d4. Very solid move. So from black's point of view, they are probably noticing a little trap that they have, and that is that right now, white does indeed have a threat of capturing this knight right here, and then let's say that black just recaptures. This attack right here would be vulnerable, and we would actually win a piece. So that is something that black, of course, wants to avoid. So how they can do that, in this line at least, is bringing their queen out to f6. Now again, typically it's not a great idea to move your queen out this early, but if they want to defend against this, then this is one technique that they can use. And this move is actually good for a couple different reasons. Not only is it defending this knight right here on c6, but there is also an x-ray attack and some potential threats whenever this knight would move. Then the queen could capture on b2 with a future threat on the rook. And also there can be some vulnerabilities on f2 as well. So again, typically they say you don't want to bring your queen out too early, but in this case it is definitely justified. So now we see less into the future and more immediately, there are a lot of pieces attacking this d4 knight. You, of course, don't really want to move your knight. Don't let it get chased around. So what white's going to do is take their pawn and move it up to c3. So this does a couple things. Obviously, it helps protect your knight, but it also has another key benefit, and that is it prevents this bishop to b4 check. So black had this move in reserve, which it wasn't a serious issue, but it may just be a little annoying. Maybe set up some tactics, cause them to lose a tempo. But now this c3 move also prevents that, which is another benefit of that move and why it's very often played. So now what black is going to do, their response is to actually take their knight on g and move it to e7. So why this move? It usually isn't the most common square when developing your knight, but in this case, essentially what is most likely going to happen is this queen is going to move away. We don't know exactly where yet, but it's going to move off of this f-file, and whenever this happens, black is going to have the option of pushing their f-pawn to f5, and of course, since it's defended by this knight on e7, then they are going to essentially start fighting for the center. So again, this queen eventually has to move, and then black can pursue their plans of attacking the center. So that is the main reasoning behind that move. And now white's response is essentially just to continue development, bringing their bishop out to c4. Now, again, this is just a normal developing move. Nothing really in particular about the Scotch or the other pieces. It's just a great central location for the bishop. And now this knight can actually move to e5. So at this point, you kind of want to get it out of the attack from the knight on d4, and also it has a couple other benefits that may not be obvious. First and foremost, it's pretty clear that it is now attacking this bishop, and I'm sure that even if they, let's say, defended with the pawn, they would be happy to trade and double white's pawns and also trade a knight for a bishop, which is typically a slight advantage. But other than that, and probably less obvious, is that it's now blocking this e4 pawn from advancing. So even though it may not seem like a big deal, because right now, if they just bumped up their pawn, then they could just take it with the queen. But later on, if you prepared it, it may be a little annoying move. And now, by blocking it in, it kind of cramps white's position. I mean, their pieces are a little bit cramped in there, and it's just a better location in general for this knight. So what is white going to do? Again, we said we really don't want to just try to defend this. We really just want to move this bishop out of the way, not looking to trade off just yet. And the best location, I don't want to say best. It's kind of a matter, not preference, but general theory, I guess, is to take this bishop and slide it back to e2. Now, another potential square, I mean, yeah, you can go somewhere like this, but then it's just going to get kicked away and chased away, lose some time. Another potential square is to d3, but the reason that d3 is not preferred is not only is it just under attack, but in addition to that, it prevents this queen from protecting this knight right here. So this knight has a lot of attackers on it, and by taking the bishop and moving it to d3, you would actually be removing one of those, and also this bishop would be on a very bad square because it would be blocked in by the pawn anyways. So that's the rationale behind that. And the last move that I want to cover is, since I like to give each side the same amount of moves, is at this point, black is going to take their queen and move it to g6. So what does this do? Well, a couple different things. We already talked about preparing this move earlier with the knight coming out to here and then pushing their pawn forward to f5 to kind of fight for control, since they now have a lot of pressure on the square. And also, if we see more immediately, this queen is now attacking not only the e4 pawn, but also the g2 pawn, and it's just in a really great position, a really solid move. So again, like I said, I'm not going to play out a whole game for you, but that's the general idea behind the Scotch game, some of the more common moves in the classical variation, and hopefully you guys like what you saw. I mean, as soon as I saw this opening, I'm like, yeah, this is pretty cool. At least if you think that you're not going to play it, it's cool to just study and be aware of this. So as always, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you later.